Welcome to this week's blogging video. Today's video is all about why and how I hired my first employee to help me with all things blogging. I know a lot of people are either thinking about this and preparing for it or are at the point where you're actually ready to hire someone. So I wanted to go through how I hired them, why I hired them, and the different tasks that I had them doing. Two disclaimers out of the way. If you hear any noise in the background, I'm filming at our new office and things are happening all around us. So try to ignore. I'm hoping that the microphone we have on the camera kind of blocks it. Second thing, another disclaimer that I always say, I am Sophia. I have the blog by Sophia Lee. I started it about 6 years ago now, which is actually insane. I was a 19-year-old going into my sophomore year of college, moving into the dorm rooms as I was literally starting it. And since then, I've turned it into a multi-million-dollar blog along with other businesses, and that's crazy. So there's so many things that I wish that I knew or could go back and tell myself. And that is what this whole YouTube channel is for, is really like just giving you insight on things that I wish I knew. So that's my two disclaimers. Let's get into the video where I tell you all about how I hired my first employee. So the story / background of how I hired my first employee. I knew that I was getting really busy and that there was starting to be time in the day that I just didn't have, or time that I needed to have and I didn't. And so one time I was on vacation and I read 4 Hour Work Week, and it literally changed my entire perspective on hiring and just having a team in general. Before I really thought of that as an expense, and now I think of hiring as an investment, which is a scary shift of mind, but it's like the difference between a CEO mindset and an entrepreneur mindset. And I think it's really important that you get that into your mind, is that even though you will be paying this person, it's an investment. And what 4 Hour Work Week taught me was that there are certain things that I have to be doing in the business. There are many other things that require no personalization. They are just tasks that need to get done. And with my blog, I had many things that were about me, but I also had many things that were not about me. And I started to think and just come up with a list on things like, what do I actually need to be doing versus what could I hire out? So some of the things on my personal list in the beginning were different than what I would recommend now. So when I first was thinking about hiring someone, I was obsessed with my email list, which I still am. It's one of the most important things you can have with your blog. But my whole thing was like, okay, I'm getting all of these people on my email list because of free printables that I have. So like, that's my opt-in. I need someone to create these free printables for me. So that's how I actually hired my first person. And literally within a week of that person working, I was like, wait a minute, like I need help with other things, probably more. They can definitely still help with that, but there's a long list of other things that they also can help with. So I have my trusty computer here with all of the lists of the things that I originally first hired someone for. So the first one was SEOing my blog posts. So I did a big little training session with them on just SEO in general, and there were even posts that like they could actually write, which I feel like this took a lot of control for me to be able to have someone write a blog post on my own. I mean, I was reviewing every single thing, and still do review basically every single thing that goes out there. So like I was able to tweak and make it my own word, but there are definitely blog posts out there that are strictly SEO. And then there's ones that are personalized, and the SEO ones, you don't need to have you writing that. Like what I wanted in my SEO post was for the reader to understand my writing and be able to be like, oh yeah, that's Sophie writing it, which I was able to do after the fact that it was already written. So they would do the SEO research. They would get, like, I have a big list of things of SEO related parts of my blog post that are non-negotiables for me. So I went through that with them. By the way, if you want to know those things, take my Perfecting Blogging course. Side little pitch on that one. But they knew how to do every single thing. So when going and being like, okay, this is this week's blog post, they were able to get like a really solid framework for me on what the blog post was about. Just like some of those like research side of things that have nothing to do with opinions, they just have to do with like what people are searching for, essentially. So that was one of the things Another one that I am still very holding on to, but they were able to like be a sounding board on this, is content planning. So we would sit down and we would go through, you know, SEO and keywords and when it's most popular on Google and also on Pinterest. And we would come up with a long list of just, you know, a content calendar. And that way we were all on the same page with what different type of blog posts. And we could also at that time delegate, like, okay, this is something that I'm really passionate about writing. I feel like this is a really important thing for me to write, versus like this one, you know, like an example, actually a really good example was like when I was writing about dorm rooms, there was only one person on this planet that was gonna write like my top 10 dorm room essentials. That was me. Like, I am so opinionated about those things. I didn't want them putting things in there that I didn't agree with. Like, that's one that I was writing. One that I didn't need to write was dorm room Christmas decor. Okay, like that was a lot of just finding images and reaching out, which I'll get to in a second, that they can do. And I didn't feel like as strongly that like I needed to be the one that wrote this specific post. A big one that they helped me with was getting permission for photos. So we do not put any photos on our website that are, one, they're either our photos or we have written permission by the original poster to post that on our website. I did this basically when I learned that it was okay not to take images, which I learned very early on, thank God, because that's like a huge no-no. So now we literally get written permission, we have them all saved, and that's something that I don't need to do. That is something that they can do. They can gather photos, get that written permission, because it takes a long time. You have to go after people and reach out to them multiple times to get that permission. Affiliate linking is another one. So like for those top 15 dorm essentials that I was an example that I gave, I would write the whole post, I would have it all ready to go, and then they would go and link the products. Like linking those products, they already know exactly what I'm talking about. That's not really something that I actually need to be doing. Same with adding our opt-ins, and just making sure that the blog post is like fully ready to go. And then lastly, responding to emails. And that was more just like when I hired someone, that's when I first started getting like an influx of emails. And a lot of them were just like the spam emails that everyone that has a blog gets. And it just needed to be weeded through. So they would then go through and list out like, these are ones that are actually important for you, Sophie, to answer, versus like ones that don't need to be answered by me. And that was a huge time saving. So those were like the list of things that I found really helpful to hire out for. How I actually found my first person was one of my friends. And she was one of my like really good friends, one of my best friends. And at that time she was telling me like, I know her work ethic. I've known her my entire life. She's still with BSL today. She's like the best ever. And she was in college at that time, as was I. And she was like, oh, I just really wish that I had a flexible job where like I could still go to the bars and go to games and whatnot. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Like, I might have something for you if you're interested. So I just paid her hourly. She was super open to learning, and that's how like the first role started. And then she's grown in the company. Now she's like my right arm in the business. Is it right hand or right arm? I always say it wrong. So definitely, like, I feel like in the early stages of having a business, no matter what it is, like, you really have to rely kind of on people you know. I know that another option, which I've known people in the blogging world to do, I haven't personally done this, but I know multiple people who've done this, is to get like a virtual assistant. That's the word for it. A virtual assistant. And you can find those at many places. I know there's Facebook groups for virtual assistants. There's that specific website, which I'll have, this is another thing I'm blanking on, but I'll have it right here so you can see it. And those are other places. A lot of, like, you can get some really inexpensive help. I don't know how good they are. Like, you're gonna obviously have to vet them and do your own research, but that is another option as well. Another place that we looked is high schoolers, and had like internships. And so we still pay all of our interns, but obviously you're able to pay them a lot less. And in our case, like, well, and in your case with a blog, like high schoolers are so smart. They're starting to learn SEO in their courses now, which is a very important thing, I think. And they're super eager to get work experience. So that's another place that you can reach out to your local high school for just some help or just to dip your toes into having someone help you with your website. And the last point that I just want to hit across is constantly think about ROI. Your return on investment needs to happen for hiring an employee. And like I said from the beginning of this video, it is an investment. Like, you might not see it move the needle right away, but eventually it should. So really think about what tasks you're giving them. Make sure they're important to earning money on your blog, because once you start making money from them, you'll be able to, one, have so much time on your end to put towards the thing that will really move the needle, and then you can keep hiring and it really snowballs down. So that is a little bit about how I hired my first employee and what they did for my blog. I hope you found that video helpful. Make sure to check out my blogging courses. I have Perfecting Blogging, which goes over all of the SEO on my website, the different things I do on the front page, in the blog post, my content calendars, keyword research, like everything. I get super nitty gritty. Here are some reviews of that course. We then also have Perfecting Pinterest. Pinterest is a huge traffic resource for us. We get so many readers on our blog directly from Pinterest. And the faster you get readers on your blog, the faster you can get into an ad agency, which is one of the first ways you can make money. And then we have Perfecting Email. Perfecting Email is our most complicated course. I always say do not take Perfecting Email as your first course. I would highly recommend doing Perfecting Blogging, then Perfecting Pinterest, then Perfecting Email. And Perfecting Email should really happen like at least a year into starting your blog. But an email is so important, and it's truly like the only thing that you own for your blog. So look into those courses, but otherwise I will see you at the next blogging video.